Good morning from Pogradec, Albania. It's been a minute. As you might know, I've been traveling with my bestie quite a bit around the Mediterranean and have just been super busy, and I haven't had the chance to post any videos in a while. I actually intended to post more updates during our travels, but it just didn't happen. We were just so busy. So I have tons of really great content to post, several videos planned, and I'm gonna try to see if I can pump out at least one video this weekend related to our travels. So please stick around and keep checking back for those videos. They're gonna be really good. But I really wanted to do this video and get it out today because I have been in Albania for 1 year, and I wanted to take this time to talk about where I was 1 year ago, where I am now, and all the things that happened in between there. I thought it would be great to have the lake in the background during this video. I have this beautiful, amazing view here, but it's so bright out. If I go outside, that I'm like squinting the whole time, and I didn't want to be wearing my giant sunglasses during the whole video. And if I sit inside, like if I turn the camera around, my face just whites out, and like it's just whatever. You get my living room today. So anyway, let's jump into it. So in this video, I'm going to talk about my 1 year as an American expat in Albania. I'm going to talk about why I left the US, why I chose Albania, mistakes I made. I'm going to talk about some recommendations. I'm going to talk about changes that I've noticed in my life as a result of being here. And I'm just going to reflect on what this experience has been like. And at the end of this video, I have a couple life updates to talk about. So this is going to be a long one. So I really hope you stick around till the end. The algorithm certainly likes it when you do. So the first thing I want to talk about is why I left the United States. I'm going to try to summarize this as much as possible. I've touched on this in a lot of other videos and in my live streams and things. But basically, I felt like I had tried everything, and I was out of options in the United States. I had struggled for decades to get my head above water, to become financially healthy, and no matter how hard I worked or how much I tried, my financial health was not improving. My physical health was quickly and strongly deteriorating, and my overall quality of life was terrible, and Jesse's was too as a result. So as you may or may not know, I'm a single mom, and I was working 3 jobs in the United States. I had my main job as a data technician or a low voltage contractor, working for superstores in the United States, installing their low voltage systems and frequently getting screwed over by them. And I worked part-time for my bestie, doing intake coordination and administration for her business. And then I did side gigs as a low voltage contractor and technician. So I never really slept. I just took naps in between things, and was always on the road, was always under massive amounts of stress. The low voltage world is stressful, and there are way too many chiefs, and nobody knows what's going on, and everyone's super stressed out, and they frequently put ridiculous timelines on things that are very poorly managed, and all the stress falls on the contractor. So it was a really, really bad life, and I don't believe that single moms are supposed to be traveling for work. So it made life for Jesse really unpleasant as well. He traveled with me a lot of the times, and sometimes he stayed with family. In addition to the massive amounts of stress, my health was declining, and it had been for a long time. And I was trying everything I could to try to improve, but I wasn't getting anywhere with the medical system. When I had time to even go see doctors, they were very unhelpful. The food that I was eating, I knew was making me sick. My stress levels were making me sick, and the things I was breathing in at work were making me sick. Lots of mold, lots of chemicals, lots of dust, and lots of exhaust. I was always driving, and it got to the point where driving really I started to notice that it was irritating my lungs quite a bit. I felt like I never had clean food to eat, fresh air to breathe, or clean water. And I knew all those things were affecting my health. After trying many things for many years to try to make a better life for Jesse and I in the United States, I realized that it wasn't working. I realized that the one major factor was the United States. So Jesse and I started talking about moving, and the reason we chose Albania was I had a lot of reason to believe that living in the Mediterranean would just be a healthier life. I felt like the food would be cleaner, the air would be cleaner, the water would be cleaner, it'd be a slower pace of life, it'd be a more affordable life, and he and I both wanted to move to the Mediterranean area. Another big thing was scenery. Like, we love mountains, we love water, we are outdoorsy people, and we need to be somewhere where we could really enjoy the outdoors. So we were looking at Greece. And we talked a lot about moving to Greece, and I started looking into what it would require, and it would have been challenging for me to meet the income requirements for 2 people. There's a certain requirement that I would have to meet if I was just a single person, but then I had to add 15%, I believe, or whatever it was. I think it was like 15% extra for a child. And that was challenging, and it was never clear if that was net or gross, and it would have just been maybe not impossible, but challenging to try to meet that. And I'm not sure how far back it had to go. It was just, there was a lot more to it. So I started looking around Greece. Like, Albania was not even on my radar. And actually prior to this, I probably didn't even know it was next to Greece, to be quite honest. So I started looking around at surrounding countries, you know, made my way up to Albania, and started watching YouTube videos on Albania. And the first video I watched, but it just showed the beautiful scenery of Albania, the mountains, the sea, the lakes, and I just remember thinking, wow, this is beautiful. But obviously I need to look into all the other things that would go into moving here. I found a few other expat videos, and I also learned about their 1-year visa-free program for Americans, and it seemed great. It seemed like I could meet the income requirements. It seemed like a safe country, so I did a little bit more research, and all that seemed to check out. So I remember Jesse coming home from school, you know, thinking that we were still talking about moving to Greece. I was like, sit down, I want to talk to you about something. I said, but before we do, I want you to watch this video. And I had him watch a video that just showed all the stunning scenery in Albania. I was like, and then I, you know, proposed the idea that we try out Albania first and see how that goes, and then if it doesn't work out, we try something else. And he thought it looked beautiful and was looking forward to trying it out, and so we decided on Albania. And then that was the time when I found Patrick's channel, Retire Overseas with Patrick. He hadn't moved yet either. I think it was about 2 months prior to his move that he and I started talking. And we started sharing ideas and talking about our plans to move to Albania. And then we became online friends quickly. Preparing to move to Albania, for me, actually didn't feel that hard logistically. Got our passports, bought a plane ticket, and found, you know, an Airbnb for a week in Tirana. And that was all pretty simple. I mean, emotionally it was challenging, but physically it really wasn't that big of a deal for me. I didn't have much. We had a storage unit that I ended up downsizing quite a bit. Actually, we downsized a couple months prior to that because my storage unit was broken into and I had a bunch of stuff stolen. Pretty much anything I had that had monetary value was stolen. So I didn't really have anything. Everything I had was keepsake. So I moved that all into a smaller storage unit, and I still have that in Ohio. The only other thing, I had an apartment, so I was renting. We finished up our lease and took off. The only other thing I had was a car. That was problematic, but because I had a loan on it, so I had to figure that out with the bank. That was a pain. But other than that, it really wasn't that big of a deal. And then when the time came, we flew to Albania, and we were scared. This was a really uncomfortable time for us because Jesse and I had never been out of the United States before. The first time we left the United States was to move to Albania. which I don't think I would recommend to most people. You should probably go test a country out, try it out and whatnot. But my situation was different. I knew that leaving the United States was my only option, and if Albania didn't work, I was going to go somewhere else. So we did. We packed it up, we moved to Albania, we got here, and immediately started feeling extremely uncomfortable. Not because anyone in Albania made us feel that way, it was just us being in a foreign country for our very first time. Trying to communicate, trying to figure out the currencies, and just learn how to be somewhere that wasn't in America was really uncomfortable. And what made it a little extra stressful for me was that Jesse, I could see, was super uncomfortable. I think the second or third day we were here, we met up with Patrick and April in person for the first time. And that immediately helped us both to feel so much more relaxed. We were so happy to have some other expats nearby that we could trust and communicate with, and it really made our transition so much easier. So I had an Airbnb for 1 week and that was it. I had 1 week off of work. I had to be back at work the following Monday. I had nowhere to live. I didn't know if the internet would work for me, and I was stressed out about finding a place, making Jesse feel comfortable and at home, and trying to make sure that the internet was going to work for my work, because I was paranoid that maybe the internet wasn't going to work good enough and I wouldn't be able to make money, or I wouldn't be able to log into my conference calls, and everyone that I work with would think that I'm not efficient anymore, that I've left the country. I had all these anxieties that I was kind of making up in my head. So I felt a lot of pressure to get a place very fast, and as a result I made some bad choices. I ended up overpaying for my apartment because it was 800 euros. It was a pretty nice apartment. It was very aesthetically pleasing, but what I didn't realize was that even though all the furniture was brand new, it was horrible. And I ended up having a ton of additional back problems as a result of this really bad furniture. Now, I certainly don't blame the real estate company that helped us find the place, because they weren't the landlord. They were just helping us to see places. I also, I could have gotten a comparable place for maybe 600 based on the area and the size and the location. I had a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and apartments with 2 bathrooms in Albania is actually kind of hard to find. So you do pay for that. And it was a really pretty place, and we had a wonderful view. So we were happy with that. It was $400 or $500 less than what I was paying for a shithole basement apartment with mold in it in Dayton, Ohio. After maybe 6 months there or so, my lung problems seemed to be kind of kicking back up. So right away after moving to Albania, I noticed the first week I was here, my inflammation levels went way down. Like, I actually noticeably lost weight, and I know it was inflammation. I started feeling better, my joints started feeling better, and within a short period of time, a lot of my health problems started to heal. One of the big problems I had was an autoimmune condition. I think they call it SIBO or but it's a gut autoimmune problem, and that's gone. That was gone within, I don't know, maybe a month of being here. Like, that hasn't been back. My lung problems started to get better. They certainly weren't getting worse like they were in the States. In the US, I would have to drive from Dayton to Cincinnati for work, and that drive would just, I could feel it in my lungs for 2 days afterwards. It was just so bad. I lived in a kind of a more rural area. I wasn't downtown, and just the air quality was killing me. So that was noticeably better even in Tirana. However, after living in Tirana for 6 months, whatever it was, I could tell the air there was bothering me, and I wanted to get out. Also, I needed to get away from that awful furniture in that place that I was staying in. You know, we ended up following Patrick and April to Pogradec. we were considering a few other places, but I didn't really have a strong opinion about anywhere, and I loved Pogradec. It was one of the few places outside of Tirana that we had actually visited. I didn't have a ton of time to be traveling around Albania. I had to work, I had to take care of Jesse, still had to be an adult. So we actually didn't do a ton of traveling, but I loved Pogradec, and the cost of living here was lower. I had Patrick and April here, and I knew the air was cleaner, and I was pretty desperate to get to some cleaner air. So we moved, and I'm so happy we did. I absolutely love Pogradec so much. I have an amazing view. The air here is considerably cleaner. Jesse loves it here. He's making friends in the area. And aside from like cutting my rent in half, the cost of food is substantially cheaper as well. Now there are some cons to living here. I'm finding that, so I have a really good physiotherapist in Tirana that has helped my back to heal substantially. I have not been able to find another one of that quality anywhere near here, so I am currently driving all the way back to Tirana to see that doctor. And when I say driving, I mean either taking a cab or taking a bus. The cab is extremely expensive, the bus is extremely uncomfortable and can be counterproductive. And I'm also finding that there doesn't seem to be any good pulmonologists in this area as well, and if there is, they don't advertise well online because I can't find one. So I may end up going back to Tirana to see a pulmonologist in addition to my back doctor. So with that being said, I want to touch on the mistakes that I made this first year here in Albania. The biggest one, and there's just a few big ones. First of all, I overpaid for that apartment. I got it way too fast, and I gave into my stress and desperation to just feel at home and to try to make Jesse feel at home. And I should have taken some more time to find something that maybe had better furniture and was a better cost, or I could have tried to negotiate a little bit. I didn't do that. But I was happy overall with the location. I made the mistake of going back to the USA early in our trip here. I think it was like October, end of October. I made a trip back to the US to try to appease family members who were stressed out about me coming here. That was a huge mistake because it cost me a ton of money. And I was only doing it to try to make other people feel better and to try to show them that, like, hey, it's not a big deal for me to come back and forth. It is a big deal, and I'm not doing that again. And another mistake that I made was dragging my feet on starting the process of getting my residency permit. So I waited a little too long to get the process going on that, and then there was a lot of back and forth, and there were a lot of issues with the paperwork and whatnot, and I started to get stressed out because I was running out of time. I got it, don't worry, I'm fine. So those are the three biggest mistakes that I made were getting an apartment too quickly, not comparing more options, going back to the US to try to appease other people, and dragging my feet on starting the process for my residency permit. Now, I would like to talk about some recommendations that I have. So I love living in Pogradec. I'm very happy that I'm living here. However, if you're trying to figure out where in Albania might be good for you, and you happen to have health problems, I'm going to recommend that you stay closer to Tirana. This is just a thought, it's something to consider. Of course, you're going to have to figure out what works best for you. Tirana has the best options for medical care, and I am finding myself making trips out there to see an amazing physical therapist. I haven't been able to find one of that quality anywhere near here, and pretty soon I'm going to be going back to a pulmonologist there because I can't seem to find what I need here. And it might be here, maybe I just haven't found it yet. But that's the thing about Tirana, you're more likely to find businesses that advertise well online and have English speakers, have websites, things like that. Unfortunately, a lot of the businesses in Albania do not have real websites. They have Facebook pages, Instagrams, or nothing. So it's not always easy to find information online. That is just something to consider. Now, if you have lung problems, I'm sure most of you out there probably don't, but for those of you, if you happen to have lung problems or sensitivities, you might not want to stay in Tirana, but even staying in the surrounding city like Durrës, Kruja, anywhere outside of Tirana, that ride back and forth to Tirana if you had to see doctors is not that big of a deal in my opinion. That's because I'm coming back and forth from Pogradec to Tirana to see doctors, and that's 2.5 hours one way. So if you're living in Durrës, that's 45 minutes, give or take, depending on where you are. So some of those outskirt areas or some of those other cities might be a better option for you. So now I want to talk about the things in my life that have changed as a result of moving to Albania. Number one, my health has improved substantially. I've talked about this a lot in my videos. I had really bad back problems, including 2 bulging discs. I had lung problems, and I had autoimmune problems. The autoimmune problems are gone. The back problems have improved substantially. Doctors in the US told me that really the only option was like some chiropractics and pain pills and surgery. Didn't want to do any of that really. I did some physical therapy and some chiropractics, and it helped, but it wasn't anything near the improvement that I see by seeing this physical therapist in Toronto. It's called the Physio Center. But he's absolutely amazing. If you have back problems, I pay $50 per appointment, 50 euros, I'm sorry. He's been able to help me with really horrendous amounts of back pain. I would say my back is like 80 to 90% better at this point, maybe 80. And it would be a lot better if I would stop doing things that keep re-injuring it. I've injured it and irritated it quite a bit with traveling, hiking, which involves slipping and falling pretty frequently. And I also did some volunteer work that was really hard on my back, and that was really counterproductive. Despite all of that, it's getting better all the time. Again, the gut problems are gone. My lung problems, unfortunately, are not. However, I know for a fact that I've been able to substantially reduce the rate at which they are declining. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm happy that I can afford the healthcare that I need to. My stress levels are down at an all-time low. And I mean all-time. I've never in my life experienced stress levels this low, not even as a child. I am so happy here. That alone, I think, is giving my body the chance to heal. I don't think your body can really heal when you're under massive amounts of stress all the time. And as a result, my quality of life and Jesse's quality of life have improved substantially, because when I'm stressed, he knows that. You know, it's hard to be present as a parent when you're chronically stressed about everything and your health is declining, and now I have to take care of my child and try to be present with him and raise him. It was a really vicious cycle. It was a really hard life, and it was toxic to both of us. And we've been able to solve all those problems by leaving the United States and moving to Albania. I don't know if that's going to be the same story for you. So another change that I've seen is that I've been able to afford to travel. That's not something I would have been able to do if I was still living in the United States. Been able to travel around the Mediterranean a little bit and have some really amazing experiences as a result of the money that I've been able to save by living in Albania. I want to speak a little bit to Jesse's experience here. I wish he was here to talk more about it himself, but I can at least talk to it a little bit. So Jesse's quality of life has improved quite a bit. He's 16. He has been able to make friends and to just enjoy being a teenager without worrying about having to travel with me for work or go to a toxic school situation or worry about the stress that I was under. So his quality of life has improved substantially, and I know he says he really loves it here as well, and he's happy that we moved. So that's all I'm going to really say about him, just because I would prefer that he, speaks for himself. So I want to talk a little bit about just some of the experiences that I've had by moving here from my very subjective point of view. Leaving the United States was the best decision of my life. Moving to Albania has helped to change me as a person in some of the best possible ways. I've had some really amazing experiences here and interactions that have just really helped to change me as a person. For example, just getting to know Albanians in general and how they interact and how hospitable they are and warm, it has been really amazing and very much a contrast to a lot of the experiences that I would have in the United States on a regular basis. Some Albanians, especially the older ones, can be a little rough around the edges or a little standoffish at first, but once you get to know them, these people are they're good people. And I really love Albanians. And I'm very grateful to Albanians for welcoming Jesse and I into their country and making us feel so at home here. I do feel at home here. And then the experiences that I've been able to have traveling even to other countries, I've had some really moving experiences, like my experiences in Cyprus, which I'm going to share an amazing video about here in the near future. I never would have been able to do that if I was still living in the United States. I just never would have been able to afford it. Alright, I had to change locations because I needed to plug my phone in. So hopefully this lighting works. So I just wanted to talk about some of the things that I still find challenging about living in Albania. First of all, finding comfortable furniture continues to be a challenge for me. I don't think it'd be a big deal if you're younger or don't have back problems, but if you have back problems or joint problems, you might want to consider doing what Patrick and April did and hiring someone to have some custom-made furniture. It's an option. Hot buses, I still find quite challenging here. The bus rides are just not air conditioned, and it is really hot out right now, and I do not enjoy taking the bus. My trips to Tirana, so I have to go to Tirana fairly frequently to see the doctor, and I'm either taking a miserably hot bus ride or a decently expensive cab ride. Plus it's just a lot of time, so that's pretty challenging for me to work into my schedule, are these trips to Tirana for doctor's appointments. I also have, you know, it's certainly challenging to have to walk everywhere to pay to get things that I need. So every time I go to the store or I go grocery shopping or I just need anything for around the house or even to pay my utility bills, I have to walk somewhere to go do that, which I enjoy. I like that. It forces me to live a slower, more conscious life. I have to spend more consciously and manage my time more consciously. But it's challenging. You know, there's a lot of times, pretty much every time I go shopping, I don't get everything I want because I have to carry it all back. And it was a little easier when Jesse was around. Okay, it was a lot easier when Jesse was around. So now I just go without. But that was one of the things I wanted when I moved to Albania. I wanted a slower, more conscious lifestyle where we're not overspending, we're thinking about the things we buy, and we're slowing down how we do our day. So I can't just hop in the car and drive somewhere to go get something. Like a doctor's appointment is a whole day's trip, maybe even an overnight trip to Tirana. So things just move slower here. And that was certainly true for my residency permit. That was a very slow, cumbersome process. And even though I have my temporary permit right now, I still have more to do with that. So I'm still dealing with that and some documentation errands that are associated with that. So there are challenges with living here, and those are the ones that stand out to me. Those are the ones that affect me the most. But other than that, that's really about it. I don't have a lot of complaints. So this past year has been a really wonderful year for us. It's been life-changing. I've made a lot of mistakes, but overall I do not regret this move to Albania. It was the best decision of my life. So that's that. That's my 1 year update, my 1 year synopsis of being an expat in Albania. So I just wanted to go over a couple of life updates. The first one was my residency permit, so I finally got that. I am down to the wire. I'm gonna make a video about that experience. It was cumbersome and annoying, but there are just some things that I can share about my experience that might help other people. I will say this, it's probably best to just talk to a lawyer. I did it without a lawyer. It can be done without a lawyer, but you probably save yourself a lot of headache if you just get a lawyer. And the lawyers in Albania tend to be pretty affordable. Not all of them, but I was able to find lawyers who quoted me 150, 200 euros to help with the residency permit process. A couple other life updates. Jesse is planning on coming back in August, so that will reset his 1 year because he will be gone 3 months in early August. So we're looking at getting him back here somewhere around mid-August. So I'm really looking forward to having him back. It's been a long time. As I've mentioned before, we've never been apart this long before. I think the longest we've ever been apart was maybe just over 2 weeks. So this has been a little rough for me, but I've had a lot of fun in the meantime, but I am looking forward to having him home. And I know some of you were wondering if Craig and I are dating, and yes, we are. So Craig Zevis of the YouTube channel Craig Zevis and I are dating. So I just wanted to clear that up. He and I are making a separate YouTube channel for our adventures together. We have not posted anything yet because this started just a few weeks ago, right around the time when I started planning this vacation with Bailey. So we haven't had the time to get going with that. All my videos all my hiking videos and budget videos will continue to go up on my channel. So I hope you stick around for those, and please check back over the next week or so. I'm gonna have some really great videos to post about my travels around the Mediterranean with Bailey, particularly our visit to Cyprus. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you all for sticking with me. I know a handful of you have been with me since we moved here, and a lot of you have jumped on board along the way. And I just really appreciate all of you who have stuck with me and who comment on the videos and interact in the live streams. And it's been a lot of fun, and I look forward to hopefully being able to meet some of you in the near future. All right, see y'all in the next video.